pushed us a little behind, and John Carney's gonna say the prayer for us tonight.
Almighty God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together to discuss the business of the county. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. We ask that you would be with this meeting, and may it be a time of progress and enlightenment. And Lord, we ask that you would be with all of those who lead our nation and our state and the world. All these things we ask in your almighty name. Amen.
Okay, a roll call. Everyone's here except Commissioner Epperson, and I understand she's on the way, so I'm sure she'll come in. Okay, next is approval of agenda, which I think we've got here. Is there any public comments on down? Minutes approval of the January 21st, 2025 Rules Legislative Meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
I do have one correction. There's a mistake in there. If I get it back, it was the referral. Gracious me, we've got a lot of stuff here. It's on toward the back. It's when I quoted Tennessee Code Annotated 5-21-. It should be 105 instead of it's that Tennessee Code Annotated. The last three numbers are 105. So that needs to be corrected. Any other corrections? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, public comment period. I think the county mayor said he didn't see anything outside. No one had contacted him. Does anybody else want to speak this time? Okay, being none, we'll go on to the rest of the agenda. The second item is consideration of placing the February 11th, 2025 Commission minutes on the March 11th, 2025 County Commission agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next item is consideration of placing the notary applicants on the March 11th, 2025 County Commission agenda as requested by County Clerk Donna Thomas.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Report, which was in our packet. I believe there were 41 veterans that visited. 62 veterans were transported to the VA hospitals. And we have Director Steele.
Nothing to add, sir.
Director.
Thank you, ma'am.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions? Any other discussion? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the other two reports are for our information only. Again, the community clinic, they served 78 patients on the medical side in January, and the dental side, dental report for January was 48 patients treated. Is there any questions or any comments concerning the community clinic? Motion to approve? Okay, we don't need one. Okay, it's for our own information only. Okay, we do, Ag Center, I thought I saw some minutes, Commissioner Anderson.
No, not much to update on you. We did put something in out there where Helen can control the heat with her phone. So I go in this board meeting. Michael Simons looks at me. He said, what is the temperature in here? So I said it to Helen. I said, why is it so hot in here? And she says, Mr. Bill, you told me to make sure them pipes didn't freeze, which she's right. But it didn't need to be that hot to keep them pipes from freezing. But it is nice that we got that app on there where she controls on her phone. So that's helped. And I want to remind everybody our big farm equipment sale. It's this weekend with the tractors and all that good stuff. And it starts this weekend. That's one of the biggest farm equipment sales in Middle Tennessee.
What time's it start?
It starts, I think, at 9 on Saturday. I believe 9's right. I may be wrong on the time, but I know it starts on Saturday. And they'll start rolling in with all the equipment about Thursday. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got everything running. She starts it every 30 days, and I'll remind her, hey, you started just to make sure. Because if you let something sit, it won't run, as you all well know, especially a tractor, but we're good on that. And he'll take care of us on that, so we'll be fine on that one. I appreciate it. We're going to surplus that tractor, get that done. But if anybody gets a chance just to come out this equipment sale, it is a big deal, and it brings a lot of people into our hotels, believe it or not. There's no telling how many people from out of town come to Shelbyville and Bedford County just for this sale. So I know several hotels fill up from it. So it's good for everybody. It's a good place to pick up farm equipment you might not find somewhere else, like box blades and stuff like that. It's hard to come up with. It's a pretty good sale, and the February one's actually better than the November one. So I encourage everybody to come out to that.
But how many pieces you think will be auctioned?
Oh, it's a bunch.
Is it 1 day or 2 days?
It's usually 2 days, and it may start on Friday. I may be wrong, but I think the big stuff's on Saturday. It may
One
start
day.
actually on Friday, but it's just one. 2 sales,
Okay, so they'll have 2 auctioneers working 2 different things.
but it's a big deal.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Okay, any questions concerning the ag report or any for Commissioner Anderson? Okay, being none, we'll go on to new business. I do have some other business we'll get to after we go through the new business. Number 7 is rezoning. As the Tyrone J. Rhodes is seeking to have 2601 Highway 64 West, map 085, parcel 032, rezoned from A1, which is agricultural forestry, to C1, which is rural center district. It was sent with a favorable recommendation from the planning commission. Does anybody have any questions? Well, let's see, Director Chris White's here.
I wouldn't mind if the director would explain to everybody what a rural center district is, if you wouldn't mind.
No, absolutely.
Rural Center District is just the name. It's what we call our C1 district, which is our light commercial district that is applicable to the rural areas of the county, and what we call crossroad communities. And this particular case, this is actually involving the old wheel market.
Oh, okay, I remember that, okay.
Yeah.
So this could be a market or a store.
We believe they want to open it up as a market. Sometimes people tell us one thing and
Oh, sure.
do something else, and sometimes situations change and they do something different. Sometimes it's not, they're not trying to deceive us. It's just that you have to know when you vote, when you approve possibility, it's always a possibility. It's tiny. It's less than an acre. It's just one of those non-conforming grandfathered lots of record that has always been used in my time, it's always been used, been here 30-something years. It's always been a commercial market until it closed about, a decade ago or so.
Did the planning commission have any objections to it? Were there any concerns they had?
We didn't have any objections to it.
Just as a market, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember us talking about it now. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? What's,
I think you got a few more. I'll just stand here.
okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll
you
have
might as
more.
well. What's,
Move to approve in a second.
okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. With recommendation. Okay, the next item is rezoning. It's James and Christy Warner are seeking to have Montgomery Road, map 085, parcel 001.03, rezoned from A1, which is agricultural forestry, to R1, which is suburban residential district, sent with an unfavorable recommendation, 8 in favor, and 1 in absence, and by the planning commission. definition.
Now, how could you have a nation which is it's a higher density residential zoning district, higher density than the A1 district. And in that district, you're supposed to be, same thing, close proximity to an urban growth boundary because of the high density. So that's why they gave it an unfavorable.
And this falls in also to the thing of not 1 acre per house, the rule that we have. They're wanting to put maybe 2 or 3 per acre in.
The R1 classification would allow you to reduce the lot size to 30,000 square feet
Okay.
per lot, which is an acre is 43,560 square feet. So it's about 3/4 of an acre is what it would allow it to do. And this is actually right where the Wheel Market is, just past the Wheel Market. If you turn left, it's a pretty sizable piece of land that fronts Whitaker and fronts 64 West. So it's pretty
How
far
many-
out.
how
It's
many-
almost Palmetto.
How many acres?
I could look, see my notes if you want
Oh,
to.
it's
but it's-
okay. No,
It's over 100 acres. I
It's
know
nearly
that.
200, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's a
sizable.
big, okay.
Mhm.
No, I recommend both.
That's the way it's come to us.
That's the way it came to us.
Yeah.
I make a motion unfavorable, send it to commission unfavorable.
That's the way it is. Okay, is there a motion and a second?
I got the motion.
Second.
Okay, is there any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. The next item is a zoning amendment resolution. It was in the packet to amend Article 2, Section 2, Section 3.390, temporary use regulations, and Article 7, Section 7.020, which is definitions of the Bedford County zoning resolution, version 11.32. It was sent with a favorable recommendation after a year of discussion, revisions, and amendments. Okay, it's open, floor's open. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll be happy to explain it. I think we talked about this maybe last month or the month before, because this has been going back and forth now for a long time. But these are new regulations that deal with people buying like mini barns at Lowe's and converting them to residences, things that fall outside of our building code requirements for a residential dwelling. They also involve it'd be the same thing like for RVs. So it provides us some zoning regulations for that we can enforce. It gives us some jurisdiction on the use of RVs as permanent dwellings and these little barns. And then their definitions are going to be things that where we define these words, RVs, or I think one of them is ready removables, which is something that would be like if you had a trailer, a double wide trailer that we use for a school classroom that doesn't have restrooms in it, or it was never designed to be used as a residence, where people will buy those sometimes and move into them as houses, and they're not designed to be used for a residence. And so they end up kind of trying to, because they're not designed to be lived in, they'll end up doing some things that would cause septic to be effluents to be emptied onto the ground and things like that. They don't have, they're just not designed to be used that way. So anyway, these regulations do those two things. And the main reason why we went to this is because technically speaking, these types of uses have never been legally allowed, but the only person who had jurisdiction on it would have been the building codes department. And the building codes department basically has one remedy, and that remedy is to call Duck River and have the power shut off, which is not an ideal situation if you have a baby in the house or if you have elderly people who depend on medical devices and those kind of things. So we just felt like the zoning office really ought to sort of take control of this thing, get us something, an ordinance that we can get passed where we would have the jurisdiction of it, because we have the ability to work with these people and transition them out over a period of time. We can do this with a lot more flexibility than the codes department can do it. So that's the reason why we went down this road.
A question I have kind of gives me a little bit of heartburn is if a man owns a camper and he owns a piece of property and he wants to live in the camper, or let's go through, I'm going to just run through the reasons people would live in a camper. Probably no one wants to, but construction of a home. A lot of people I know have lived in campers for a little while the building of their house, but especially if it's on a big farm, does that really matter? Business is what I'm getting to. I mean, because if you own the camper, you own the property, you pay taxes on the property, and now we're telling you can't stay in it over 30 days, or I guess we could get a permit for 6 months. I read that too. The other argument, and I'll just go ahead and get it out so you can get this one too, is I've had a couple of constituents tell me due to the high cost of rent, they've had their kids or college kids live in the camper beside the house to teach them a thing or two because of rent, for one, or an elderly parent where one of the parents passed away and it gave them an option there. Does this take away from that?
Well, the answer would be yes and no. It would be depending on the situation. First of all, the first situation I took note of was the situation where you have a house under construction. There's actual a provision in there for that. So it's actually where we can issue a temporary zoning permit through our office that allows a person to use it while their house is being constructed. And if for some reason, there's also some provisions in it as well for if for some reason somebody were to get a permit to begin a house and for something happened and the construction was delayed, they can renew that permit twice. And so it gives us the ability to be flexible with that for somebody that's trying to build a house or whatever. And because a lot of times people will put a house up for sale and they'll think, well, when, I'll move, well, then the house just sells instantly and they have no options. And so we try to work with people when it comes to situations like that. The thing about if you have an elderly adult, there's in this same set of rules, or maybe it's the one we did last month, but anyway, we have provisions for temporary medical situation where a doctor can sign off and say this person needs to be looked after, by a family member, and you can actually move like a house trailer, a single wide house trailer, or something that does pass a residential code. And there's a lot of reasons why you want them to live. You really care about these people. You really want them to live in something that's designed to be lived in.
I agree.
And a lot of times with these RVs, it's really more of a danger to an elderly person to live in one than it would be if they just lived in something that had a set of stairs that was built to code and a landing and all these things where they can get in and out of it safely.
What about with a student, though, in a situation? And I mean, this is a problem we've got with our young people. They're all living at home with their parents because we can't afford to rent. I mean, that's the bottom line for these young folks. There's nowhere to go. And I have seen where a couple of people reached out to me that, well, they're living in my camper. They go to school, they do whatever. What about in that situation?
So again, it's not, like I said, it's a yes and a no.
Right.
The yin and the yang. It's not going to solve everybody's problem. But again, living in an RV right now is already against the building code that you guys have adopted. So what we're wanting to try to do is, if we're going to regulate it, we just want to regulate it in a more humane manner is what we want to do.
Okay. Commissioner Hooker.
Well, technically, if they're doing that, it's already not okay. It's already not allowed. So, right. So what this would do is just take it out of the codes department's hands and put it in our hands. And the one good thing about it is, at least they'll be working with somebody who can, over a period of time, we can transition them out of these illegal uses and that sort of stuff. Whereas it's not going to be a cold turkey kind of thing.
All right. My other concern would be, as I'm reviewing your all's minutes in the Planning Commission about this RV park. Here's what concerns me. You can't live on an RV on your property, but you can have an RV park potentially. And to me, there's something here just doesn't pass the smell test to me, that you can't live in an RV on your own land, but you can have a park full of them. Can you explain that one to me?
Yeah, and that'll be the next item, if you want to go ahead and jump to it. Yeah, I mean, we do have provisions for RV parks, and of course, there's a lot of regulations for an RV park, one of which is you're not supposed to be able to stay in the RV park for more than 30 days. So it's not a permanent dwelling, it's a temporary dwelling. And RVs are designed to be temporary dwellings, which is exactly why you have RV parks, because they're just for temporary uses. And so, whereas you put an RV out on the back 40 and you start, I don't know, if you either have a septic site or you don't. Most of the time they don't.
Yeah.
And so we're polluting the rivers. We're doing all sorts of stuff that we really don't
Most
want to do.
RV parks have provision for wastewater.
They do. And our regulations are quite intense. Our RV parks are quite intense, which is one of the reasons why there's a lot of controversy over this particular one. Now, the Planning Commission in this case, what they did is they chose to bring it back the following month. And what I do know what the Planning Commission wants to do is take it back to the BZA and question the BZA's approval of it. And the rationale behind that is that we have two places for campgrounds and RVs in our zoning resolution. So in the A1 zoning classification, which is where this is zoned A1, there's a provision for campgrounds. And what we did is we went by that with the person, and this person applied for this thing over 2 years ago. They've been working with an engineer for a long time. Because, like I said, the regulations are very intense. They've got to build roads in it, just like you build a county road. There's a lot of expense that goes into it. And they have to provide wastewater services and the whole 9 yards. So, sorry, my phone's going off. So anyway, let me see where I'm at. Where am I at? So you've got these regulations in A1 as a campground, but in the C1 classification, you actually have one that's more specific to RV park. And what we did is we took them through the campground in A1, and they also wanted to have a mini storage warehouse component to the front of it, which would have requires a C1 zoning classification. So what they always intended to do is if they could go through and get it approved as an RV park, their intention was to come back and try to rezone the front of it C1 in order to have the mini storage warehouse component to it. Our regulations are so intense that the requirements for them to build the RV park would almost require them, in my mind, and they have said that it would require them to have the other component to it in order to cash flow the RV park. So we always knew that would probably be the hang up, is trying to get that piece zoned C1. The hang up now, though, what sort of surprised us, which I don't disagree with, I actually do agree with it, is that if there's a provision for an RV park in C1, that there's only a provision for a campground in A1, then the correct route would have been to take them through C1 and ask them to get it rezoned C1 just for the RV park as well.
That's where I'm sort of at.
That
with
was a
this.
surprise to us. And like I said, this thing started over 2 years ago, so it has been kind of out of sight, out of mind for a long time until just recently when we started having hearings on it. So that's where we're headed with it, is we're going to take it back to the BZA and try to reverse, we're encouraging the BZA to reverse that opinion and that
Because
vote.
a campground and an RV park are two totally different things.
Two different things, right? Two different things.
And
But
an RV park is generating money, and in A1, it's agriculture, and it can be agriculture for profit. This is commercial for profit.
exactly. So
So you have to go
it's just
C1,
some
right?
conflicting language in the campground regulation part of it.
Okay.
And so it all seemed to make sense, and that even if they went through A1 as a campground, all these other regulations were still in play. And so the traffic engineering study, all those things were in play. And so it was just one of those things where, and I don't mind when I make a mistake, I make a mistake. This was on me. This is the direction that I put them into. And honestly, I feel bad about it because I know that applicant has spent a lot of money towards this. And so, but what's right is what's right. And, there's a good chance the BZA will reverse it. And then if the person comes back, they'll be applying for a C1 for the whole thing. And then you'll see it again as a C1. Likely will not get a favorable recommendation for a C1. I don't know, but as you know, I don't know how you guys vote
right.
and stuff. But
But to me, it ought to be C1. It shouldn't be Ag 1 this way with a business, I wouldn't think.
I think, you're right. I agree with you.
But the other concern that I've got too is, we can go around the city of Shelbyville, and I know we'll have regulations, but these RV parks I see in the city of Shelbyville, I'm not going to name names, but we could get in the car and drive down and look at them, and they may start off nice and they become something very undesirable. That is a fear I have with this, because it starts off with a fancy RV. Next thing you know, it's a bunch of campers and folks living there, guys, and it's not a road we want to go down. So I don't know how we enforce, you're here 30 days. Do you leave for a day and come back? and stay 29 more days, or how that works. And I can see how it could also get over time very negative. I mean, what would keep us from doing that?
Yes, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not a prophet. I don't know how these things are going to go, but at the end of the day, the reason why the standards are there, the reason why we put the standards in there was so that we could elevate the project.
Right.
You elevate the project, that means you elevate the cost of entering into the project, which means you automatically dissuade the type of thing that you're talking about. When you've got to build roads, you've got to build roads in there, which is the main reason why most developers don't build nice subdivisions, because they'd rather just carve up the frontage because they don't want to build the road. It's an expensive thing to do. So you have to have, they have to have all sorts of amenities on site. So, but by the time they do all that, you would think logic would, because some of these guys are driving $1 million vehicles.
Oh, yes.
And obviously you want that kind of tourism, right? You want those people to come in and spend their money and then go back home, and we don't have to put their kids in school. We don't have to do any of that stuff. That's a great thing. But if it's not done right, and, most of the time I think money sort of drives this question. And I think that the expense of it, you probably would not get something undesirable. But again, I'm not a prophet. I don't know.
You got to make money in the winter when something like this too. And what they run into is you want permanent residents if you can get them, what we call them. I'll bring up Normandy Lake for a second. Back in the day, or if you go to Tim's Ford, the state of Tennessee won't let you stay for sure. Park ranger, whoever stops it. Well, Normandy took their campgrounds and privatized it. And now what's happened is the guy that's got it privatized over here, I've got stuff for you to rent on the lake during the season, but Commissioner Fair here wants to stay year round. And there's about 30 other sites over there. You can drive over and look at both those campgrounds, and they're staying year round. And that's right over at Normandy. And some of that's not exactly what we would want either.
Right.
And y'all can all drive out there and look at it.
Just one further question, just maybe I overlooked it. So if it's on your personal residence, you could ask for the 30 days if they would extension for a period of time for years. Is that also to the RV park, to where that there's only a certain period of time that you get in the RV park? When I was in Nevada, the RV park I was staying in, you could be there for 30 days at a time, and then you had to submit to the city for extension. Is that something that is in the regulations?
In our RV park regulations, that is not in it. The extensions are not in there. So it's just simply 30 days.
But it's the same thing, and now it's a permanent residential area.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't want.
Right.
And so that's where we may need to look at seeing if that needs to be put in.
In the regulations for having an RV at your back 40, like we were talking about earlier, it's more flexible because these are people's homes. These are people where they're building homes. These are people that have a little bit different situation, and it's not a commercialized type of thing. It's just done for convenience. And so with the RV park, it's a commercial enterprise. And again, we don't want people living in them all the time. So we don't have that same regulation in there currently for the extensions in an RV park. We do have it for the people at the home. There's not, but we've got a few more regulations that we're going to try to fit in here in the next couple months, and so that would be something we certainly study. Again, most of these, like I said, we don't have a county RV park per se, and so not one that's been developed, to our standards. So we don't have anything like that. These regulations, again, we all start off these regulations with what we know about them, which a lot of times is very little. And then things happen, we get a few, and things evolve, and you learn a few things. And then so that we're always chasing these regulations all the time. It's a constant thing. No, it wouldn't apply. Right.
No.
Yeah. That's the type of thing that we're trying to stop.
Now, what if, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner. Okay, well, I was just gonna mention some other ones in some other places, like Caffey Road's got a couple, but are they grandfathered in? I mean, they're right on the road right there. Or ones like that just sit right on, that's all grandfathered in, isn't it?
Well, then
If
they're
it
not
predates zoning or
grandfathered.
whatever.
They're not grandfathered in for me because I don't have jurisdiction on them right now.
Gotcha.
But from a code situation, unless they were there before 2006, they would not grandfather in because that's when we adopted building codes in '06.
Okay, my question concerns page 3 and the mini barns, and I'm reading here that they are never grandfathered in under this and want to be used. In my district, and we have a gentleman who has been to the planning, he's been here, because that very situation has happened in our neighborhood. What's the remedy going to be for that, since there's no grandfathering that clause? Will you all take a look at that at this point?
Yes, because again, we don't have any jurisdiction on it. This would give us jurisdiction. So the reason why they don't grandfather in is not because of the 2006 thing with codes, is because mini barns specifically are against the state law to be used. But again, it's a code violation. It's not a zoning violation. So it's a state code violation. So that's why if we get jurisdiction on this, then we wouldn't consider a mini barn ever grandfathered.
Okay, so the second part of my question would be, this person has managed over the course of probably 18 months or so. They have water, they have electricity, they're pretty established now. And you said you would help find them a different mode maybe of, so what does that look like? I mean,
we're not going to be finding people housing.
Right,
That's not what we're going to be doing. But we will be working with them and helping them giving them time, so to speak, to try to find alternate, housing. Where the codes department, like I said, they have one remedy: cut the power off. That's it. And a lot of times don't know who's living in them things. And if we did, we still have to treat everybody the same. So, so we just have to treat it like somebody may have a child in there, somebody may have an elderly person on a medical device or something like that. We have to treat them all the same. So that's the reason why we want to move it into the zoning realm.
right, because initially when this one in particular started, was brought to our attention, it was just the mini barn. We were living there. The sewage was running onto the ground. Now he's managed to get a mailbox. He just borrowed the neighbor's house number and put a letter B to it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are the things that are kind of concerning.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he wants that one.
Homes, where does that fall in this?
So barn dominium's a different thing. There are manufactured barn dominiums out there that people can buy as a pre-manufactured barn dominium, and they market them that way. And then, of course, you can build a barn dominium, stick build one if you want to. The code, for us, it's a matter of use, residential use, commercial use, ag use, those kind of things. Interact with people on actually what it is that they're building. So there's about 2 manufacturers probably in the say 5 or 6 state region that actually manufacture tiny homes to the Tennessee's building code. So and the state of Tennessee would license those things just like they do house trailers. Yeah, they either meet that code or they don't. The ones that meet the code don't look like the ones that you see a lot of times.
Right.
Because a lot of times the ones you see will have a ladder for a set of stairs up to a loft bed or something like that. There could no way you could pass the code for landings and riser height and that kind of stuff for stairs. So most of those things are out, but the code doesn't require a minimum square footage on any kind of dwelling. So they're not trying to price people out of the market as far as having a home of their own. They just want them to pass a minimum safety standard. And so that's what building codes are all about. And so as long as they can pass the safety standard, they'll be fine. And in fact, if somebody wants to stick build a tiny home, they're going to be being inspected in the process of being built, and they're going to pass, right? Or they're not going to get a CO. So the ones we worry about are the ones, some that meet the state standard.
Any other questions? It is. I'm glad we're airing it out, because there's a lot of valid questions have been asked. It's a pretty detailed resolution. It's 8 pages, and there's a lot in there. I read through it a couple of times, and that's, a lot of the questions here were answered. but you think, it's pretty detailed. You worried about any overreach in there or, with any of your changes?
I'm not, or
Okay,
it
well,
wouldn't be
good.
in front of you. And again, the planning commission spent a lot of time on this.
Okay.
I've never spent more time on a resolution than this one. And like I said, it took over a year to get the language where everybody was happy
Yeah,
with the language.
did the legal look at it or not, or you just didn't worry about it, or do you think it'll?
Everything I write,
stand
I
up?
think is legal, right?
I was just wondering about unintended consequences,
Right,
and sometimes they pop up.
right.
Okay, all right. Is any other question? That's the only comment I had. Okay, thank you, Director White. Okay, what's the wishes of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. It's gonna move on to the commission. Okay, that's all that's listed under new business. I've got, one, item in other business, and I brought it up last time. I read, an area, and I think we've got it, and maybe you need to turn to it, but, the county legislative body, and I've got a copy of this, and we can copy it and give it to everybody. It was sent to me last year, by Charlie Curtis concerning the finance department, and maybe I've gone by it. Evidently have. I'll just go on in there. There's some place where it may be. I think it's on 28 and 29 where it mentions Tennessee Code Annotated 5-21-105, but it does talk about special committees, as I mentioned last month. And it says, and I'm reading from this is the bottom of 28, and you've got it in the copy. It says, under special committees, general provisions, A, the county legislative body may authorize the committee to assume the functions of any or all of the following special committees, or the county legislative body may by resolution create. So one, a budget committee, two, an investment committee, or three, a purchasing committee. So this legislative body has a right to form three different committees. Now, B, it says upon creation of use shall be composed of 5 members appointed by the county legislative body. The members of such committee need not be members of the county legislative body. Well, it was true of the other, but we decided that the 4 that were placed on there need to be within the county legislative body, but they don't have to be. C, the director of finance shall be the ex officio secretary of each such committee. D, it mentions now the special committee is a budget committee. Shall establish and approve procedures and regulations necessary for the preparation of the annual operating and capital improvement budgets, which that's what we're fixing to do in the near future. Then it goes to the investment committee, and then it has comments concerning the purchasing committee, which we're not interested in those other two at this minute. And I do have some comments about this. 2.5 years ago, we had several new commissioners that were elected and came on the county commission. Several of them had the number one selection was to serve on the finance committee. Of course, there was not that many openings, and they were placed in other committees. I think there were 3 that had first choice, if I remember. I look back, and I believe that's right, was John Boutwell wanted to serve on the finance committee. He's from District 8. Diane Neely wanted to serve on the finance, number one. That's their number one pick from the 4th District. And Troy Thompson said he'd serve on anything, but if he could, he would love to serve on the finance committee. Of course, there's not that many slots, nor that anyone was aware of the special committees that we could form a budget committee. Now, all 3 of these commissioners have years of experience in finance, and numbers and budgeting, and I think they're very well experienced. I think it would provide diversity and balance, and all of them are accessible, and I think they would certainly serve the budget process very well. So we got these commissioners, I think in questions, I think you can certainly call them. I did check with them to see if they would be willing to serve, and they all said yes, that they would like to serve. I think if you have any questions, you can certainly talk to any of those. And then, of course, as Charlie Curtis said, and it's all right. Of course, I was already said to use Robert Daniel as an ex officio secretary. But he said to me, Commissioner Farah, well, why would you let the superintendent of schools or the highway department or the county mayor decide your budget when they have no responsibility for the budget? That responsibility totally lies within the county commission, with us. And I think that's very important. Now, under the we'll go back to some history. Two previous county leaders, Jimmy Woodson served 2 terms as county executive. Eugene Ray, who was, when I went on the Rules Committee in '02, was chairman. He'd been chairman for probably maybe a term or 2 before that, as then was elected for the first county mayor, and commissioners to serve from the same district. Now, this president was gone away in '02. Unfortunately, the rule is not in the bylaws. It's not in there that you need to have commissioners to serve on standing committees not from the same district. But it was strictly followed. I don't know of any case, and I went back to 2 terms before that, and I couldn't find anybody serving on standing committees from the same district. Nowhere. And I know there weren't under Jimmy Woodson, nor under Eugene Ray. So unfortunately, during the 2022 election, there were two commissioners from District 5 that were approved and placed on the Finance Committee. This certainly broke a decades-old procedure of nonpartisan appointments, and it set a precedent, because I'm not aware of any time ever that this has happened before. So I'd like to recommend and request this special committee to be considered at the March 11th Board of Commissioners. The special committee, yes, certainly we're going to hold some from finance. I think it's only right on this 5 committee staff. Then Linda Yockey from District 5. I think she's on the slate. John Boutwell from District 8 is on the slate. Diane Neely from District 4 is on the slate. And Troy Thompson from District 3 is on the slate. I have spoken to all these other people. They would not object to serve. I think I've mentioned it with some of the Rules people. They think that is a very viable and important special committee, because you're still holding 2 of the more experienced commissioners on the committee, and putting 3 commissioners that wanted to serve on this when they were elected in '22, but did not have the ability to serve until we uncovered that we could have a special committee, which is a budget committee of 5 commissioners that does just what I said. And you can read all this. Everyone needs to read it, and we need to discuss it, debate it, and call anybody you want to. But I'm certainly for it. I think it's all of that is certainly for it's for the county commission. It's our budget. It's not the county mayors. It's not the superintendent of schools. It's not the highway department. The highway department had issue with the rules, even submitting stuff to us. Well, I've got a problem with those 3 dictating what we do within our budget, which we are responsible for. The 28 commissioners, not the other 3. And that was the wishes, and we can bring him in here. I talked to Charlie Curtis last week, and he'll be glad to come down. He couldn't come tonight. He said the legislative session, as we know, is in session, and we can do what we want to. This will be left up to the 18 commissioners, and it'll be decided March 11th. And if we need to do something else, or if we have any changes or anything else, that'll be left up to the commission.
Make a motion, we send to commission, let the commission.
Okay, for discussion
yeah.
debate there?
Yeah, I have some questions.
Okay, absolutely.
Do we want to go ahead and push this through first before we ask questions?
No, absolutely.
No,
Absolutely.
Okay, so under 521-103 that you handed out to us, it says Finance Department. Then under the Finance Department, shall be responsible for purchasing, accounting, budgeting, payroll, cash management, other such financial matters the county herein provided. So how do you determine that since we're already on the 81 Act and the Finance Department has statutorily acquired all these functions, how do you? The
well,
Finance
they'll just pick it up. The 5 commissioners will pick it up as anything would. I don't see any changes of anything existing, other than we're going to have 5 commissioners representing our county commission to do it. I don't think
What are
it's
they going to do? What are they?
Well, they're going to
What are the functions?
work on the budget.
What
They'll
does that
establish and
mean?
approve the budget.
Help me understand what that means when you say
Well,
they'll do
what-
the budget.
Well, form it and discuss it and ask questions and be a part of the process.
But you don't have finance division to work with. Are you going to work? With
No, it'd be
finance?
Robert Daniel. Robert Daniel's the director of finance, and he serves as an ex officio secretary. it
So
says.
what about the finance committee that we have? What are they?
But
gonna do?
they'll be the same.
Well, they work on the budget too, I think, what he was asking.
But I don't know about that. We'll have to. That's some more questions that'll have to be answered. I'm assuming, and I don't know that there's several counties that have the model, 81 Act that I'm assuming have a budget committee that are formed just for 5 members.
Well, assuming isn't a good response. We
Okay.
need to know definitively if, number one, which CTAS or anybody that says you can do this other than Charlie Curtis's word that he said.
No, we can push it forward and then we'll find out. Then it's discussion, debate. I mean, if there is, bring it up. We'll be in an open meeting on the 11th.
No, I don't think you have the legal authority, and I just say this because I try to look at rules. I mean, we're on the rules committee, and I don't want us to get in trouble. And everything I look at, I try to make sure we conform with rules. And I think you're overstepping what you can do unless you have some legal advice that's telling you you are not overstepping. Now, can you form a budget committee and go do what you want to do? Sure, you got 10 votes, you can go do that. But I don't know that legally you can then come in and define.
Commissioner Vick, we'll let you look into that this next month.
Oh, no, it's your project. I want you to-
I just made a recommendation.
Okay, I got it, and I
Okay.
appreciate the recommendation. It's a
Okay.
good discussion to have.
Absolutely, and we'll continue to discuss it.
Okay.
If there's any legal problems, we'll iron it out.
Okay.
It will.
Good, and if you're all, as long as we're discussing things.
Well,
that's a
absolutely.
good
It's
idea.
well,
I'm
sure.
for discussing
We're just
it.
making a recommendation.
Okay.
This hadn't passed.
Okay, good.
Well, you do look at, you got 521-104 and it says Financial Management Committee, General Provisions. And then right below that, you got 521-105 Special Committees, General Provisions. So you got definition for 2 different committees. I guess my only question is, who develops the budget? How does all that work?
Well, I think we're in this discussion period where we're trying to figure it out, aren't we? That we're all gonna
Absolutely.
talk
I'm
about
not
it.
for sure. I don't have all the answers.
Okay.
I just know that I think that it needs to be just within the county commission. And I'd like to see 5 members on a committee that helps do this. And instead of the other 3 that are not members of the, that's where I'm coming from. Okay, yes.
They're required, they're mandated to be on there. They're mandated.
Yeah.
The finance committee, which oversees the financing for the county because we're under the 81 Act.
Yeah, and specifically Robert Daniel. They're making sure that he treats the fee officers right and the superintendent of schools right. And of course, they came from that side to begin with, so he was doing that already. And the highway department, that's the reason why they're on there, because they get the lion's share of our budget. Okay, Commissioner Hooker.
Yeah, Mr. So the thing is I kind of, the premise of this sounds really nice. And so what I'd like to maybe make some recommendations, I think they need to go to John T. between now and May 11th so he can make some recommendations and read 104 and 105 to see how that works together. Now, again, not diving into it yet. I mean, I'll spend that time over the next 2 weeks really diving into it, but with what I'm hearing for the 104, basically, it's not changing the budgetary process in that the finance committee, along with the support of the highway department, the school system, and the county mayor, would still create the budget. But what this would do is create another layer of scrutiny before it gets to the commission to be able to make sure that there's nothing in there that supersedes, what the commission focus would be. They're still creating the budget. They're still going through the budgetary process, still going through that. But again, there's still a lot of questions with, those three individuals, some of them being county employees, making decisions for this commission on the budgetary process. So I think it's something I would love to hear from Charlie Curtis specifically. Maybe he can come to our meeting on the 11th. I think having a county attorney review that, to be able to kind of review that process. But again, one of the things we've got to watch for is without violating our 81 Act, are we making sure that the commission, the budget that we see at the commission, because I've had questions, some of those get taken, some of them don't. And then when we try to bring up stuff on the floor, we get procedured and over. And so I think this allows the budget to slow down for a bit, allow 5 commissioners to look at that. That allows the other commissioners to be able to have a little more time to be able to put input on that. I think I would encourage this committee, if it is successfully put through, to have more town halls with the other commissioners so they can actually go through the budget, the entire process, because I can tell you the last 2 budget cycles I've been through, I've had questions and we rush through that process. And when questions are asked, it seems to be that we're questioning a department. No, it's specific line items. And that if we don't address those in the exact right moment in time through that budget process, when we get to the floor, we get procedured to death until we're not even really able to make any adjustments. So at the end of the day, I think this is the right pathway to at least look at that. But I think that we need to make sure that we have our county attorney review that along with Charlie Curtis. And I'll tell you, I understand CTAS and we go to that, but I have found out if you ask one CTAS attorney one thing and you ask another one, you get 2 different answers. There's one person in this county or this state that I trust more than anything is Charlie Curtis. He's not going to lead us wrong. He's not going to lead us down a legal conundrum. He actually knows what's going on throughout this state. And so I think that he's a valuable resource for this process. And then I think our county attorney can look through it to make sure that we're not violating anything in 104 or 105.
Mr. Vick?
No.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Daly?
Okay, I think someone just read the number 2 provision that says such system shall include budgeting, accounting, purchasing, payroll, cash management, and such. But I think we also have to read number 1. The committee, and this refers to the finance committee, shall establish and approve policies, procedures, and regulations in addition to the specific provisions of this chapter for implementing a sound and efficient financial system for administering the funds of the county. What that says to me is their job to set up the perimeter and the policy management manual that we use that oversees all these departments. And then under that regulation, I could see where you would have a budget committee that specifically focused on just the budget piece in the creation of that budget. I think that's where it's going to fall. The committee has their procedures, and the reason those other 3 people are there is because it affects their department. And so they're setting the rules, the regulations, and the policies that we're all going to follow. And the reason we have opportunity for those 3 committees, if we wanted those, was the actual implementation of what exactly we're doing in those. And I think that may be what we find, and I think that's what Mr. Curtis is probably alluding to.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other discussion? Questions? Been a motion and a second? Been a second? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you second it, Commissioner
I guess
Bell?
I will.
Okay, it's been a motion and a
What is
second.
our motion? What's the motion?
It's just to push it on to the,
Commission?
yeah, and John T's office or the commission, he can study it
Do we
in the
want to defer,
meantime.
go to John T and come back to us next month?
That'll be fine, whatever
Let's do
y'all
that.
want to do.
Defer.
Let's,
a
I'll
month.
go, I'll go Commissioner Vickman. Let's defer.
But this
go-
budget process
Okay,
is
yeah.
going to
I
start
know.
pretty quick,
It
so,
comes
We
back
need to
here
get
next month.
ruling, are we thinking correctly?
yeah, that's
Right.
fine. Whatever
Just
y'all want
double
to do.
check, make sure,
Yeah.
bring it back here, and we'll go from there.
Does that suit everybody?
Second that.
Okay.
All right.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. So we're waiting on legal counsel.
Yeah, once it comes back from John T's office, I would encourage you maybe to set up a study session so we can have some discussion and be able to kind of lay out that framework. And I think
Okay.
that might be something that's helpful. Just like we're doing with this wastewater thing in a couple weeks. I think it's good to have those study sessions, to have that conversation and create the framework. That way, when it goes to the commission, we have a relatively complete document that we can actually refer to.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Discussion? Is there any announcements? They got any announcements? Okay. Commissioner Thomas.
March, the fire code, safety codes are supposed to come back before the commission. Do y'all need to put our code, safety codes are supposed to come back before the commission? Do y'all need to put that on the agenda, or does that automatically come on the agenda in March? That'll be
Did
the
we
90
defer,
day.
did we defer that
For 90 days, there was a 90-day wait period.
I think that the
the
motion on the
public-
floor was to defer for 90 days, so
Okay.
we'll make certain that
Gets
gets,
To the commission.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I think that's right.
That's right.
I'm just making sure
Yep.
that,
No, that's
No,
right.
I think you're ready to put it back on.
Yep.
if you want to.
Okay.
We already approved it. It's just, I'd say, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Yep.
yes, sir. Any other business or been announcements, then entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.